Shobha Janavitatavane Jagamana Loba Janavitatavane Jagamana Loba Daki Nitai Chande Pamega Dadara Daki Nitai Chande Pamega Dadara Nikate Advaita Asacha Radara Nikate Advaita Shrini Vasachatradara Ose Ache Gaura Chande Ratna Simasane Ose Gaura Chande Ratna Simasane Arati Korena Brahma Adi Devagane Arati Korena Brahma Adi Devagane Narari Adi Kori Kamaradulaya Narari Adi Kori Chamaradulaya Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Gosadigaya Sanjaya Mukunda Vaso Gosadigaya Sanka Bhaje Kanta Bhaje Bhaje Karatala Sanka Bhaje Kanta Bhaje Bhaje Karatala Madhura Mridanga Bhaje Paramarasala Madhura Mridanga Bhaje Paramarasala Anka Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Sanka Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Madhur 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 Bhaje Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Nitai Gora Haribo 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 Nitai Gora Haribo Bahu Koti Chandrajini Vadana Ujvala Bahu Koti Chandrajini Vadana Ujvala Galadesha Banamala Kore Janamala Galadesha Banamala Kore Jalamala Shiva Shuka Narada Teme Gada Gada Shiva Shuka Narada Preme Gada Gada Bhakti Vinodadike Urara Sampada Bhakti Vinodadike Urara Sampada Keva Jayo O Jayo Gaura Chande Aratika Shobha Keva Jayo Jayo Gaura Chande Aratika Shobha Gaurangera Aratiko Shobha Jaga Jagamana Loba Gaurangera Aratiko Shobha Jaga Jagamana Loba Nittai Gora Haribo 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 Nittai Gora Haribo Nittai Gora Haribo 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 Nittai Gora Haribo Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamiti Namine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Varsharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prasyatya Deshatarine Namaste Sarasvati Deve Gauravani Prachari Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Prasyatya Deshatarine Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Rama Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Ram Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare 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 Ram Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Hare Rama Hare Ram Hare 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 Krishna Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Ram, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Chaitanya, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Nitai Gauranga, Nitai Gauranga, Jayo Gaura, 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 Hare, Gaura, 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 Hare, Gaura, 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 Jayo Gaura, Hare, Gaura, 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 Hare, Jayo Sachinanda, Jayo Gaura, Hare, Jayo Sachinanda, Jayo Gaura, Hare, Sachinanda, Jayo Gaura, Hare, Sachinanda, Jayo Gaura, Hare, Jayo Sachinanda, Jayo Gaura, Hare, Jayo Sachinanda, Jayo Gaura, Hare, Sachinanda, Jayo Gaura, Hare, Jayo Sachinanda, Jayo Gaura, Hare, Jayo Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram, Nityananda Ram, Jayo Nityananda Ram, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura, Hari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama
विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रभाजकाचार्य नित्यलीला प्रविष्टा स्तोत्र लीला प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस प्रभाजकाचार्य नित्यलीला प्रविष्टा स्तोत्र श्रीमद् भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी श्रीला प्रभुपाद की। साक्षात वैराग्य गौर किशोर दास बाबा जी महाराज की। श्रीला सच्चिदानंद भक्तिवेदांत ठाकुर की। वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबा जी महाराज की। श्री रूप श्री सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ सर्व गोस्वामी वृंद की। नामाचार्य श्री हरदास ठाकुर की। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की। युगधर्म हरिनाम संकीर्तन की। अमल पुराण श्रीमद् भागवतम की। गंगा माई की। जमुना माई की। भक्ति देवी तुलसी महाराज की। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरी गोवर्धन मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की। मायापुर नवद्वीप धाम की। श्री क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथ धाम की, अयोध्या धाम की, द्वारकापुरी की। श्री श्री राधा गोकुलानंद सीताराम लक्ष्मण हनुमान गौरता शिव संदारवती की। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the Samal devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Samal devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the Samal devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Guru and Guru, all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki.
Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Pradadadadaine. Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha. Shilatam Kanakalaye. Ito Narsimgo Parato Narsimgo. Yato Yamitai To Narsimgo. Bahir Narsimgo Hridaya Narsimho. Narasimha Madim Sharanam Prapadya. Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Adbhuta Sringa Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Vringa Eshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Nakam Adbhuta Sringa Darita Hiranyakashipu Tanu Vringa. Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare. Jayo Narasimha Dev Jayo Narasimha Dev Jayo Narasimha Dev Jayo Narasimha Dev. Jayo Pralat Maharaj, Pralat Maharaj, Pralat Maharaj, Jayo Pralat Maharaj. Jayo Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. श्री नृसिंह भगवान की, प्रहलाद महाराज की, श्रील प्रभुपाद की.
जायो राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवारधारी जायो राधा माधव जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव गोपी जन वल्लभ यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदनन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी जय राधा माधव यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यशोदानन्दन व्रज जनरञ्जन यमुना तीरा वनचारी तीरा जय राधा माधव कुंज राम हरे राम 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 हरे हरे Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Rama Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Shri Radhe. Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman, Jaya Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita, Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Gauranita, 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 Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda ki, Shri Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Today we are reading from chapter 3, text 37. Shri Bhagavan Kama esha krodha esha Rajo guna samudbhava Mahashano mahapapma Vide enam iha vairinam. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kamesha krodha esha Rajo guna samudbhava Mahashano mahapapma Vide enam iha vairinam. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama esha krodha esha Rajo guna samudbhava Mahashano mahapapma Vide enam iha vairinam. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama esha krodha esha Raja guna samudbhava Mahashano mahapapma Vidi enam iha vairinam. Word to word. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha. The personality of Godhead said, Kama, lust, Esha, this, Krodha, wrath, Esha, this, Rajaguna, the mode of passion, Samudbhava, born of, Mahashana, all-devouring, Mahapapma, greatly sinful, Vidhi, no, Enam, this, Iha, in the material world, Vairinam, greatest enemy. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. Purport. When a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust, in association with the mode of passion. Or, in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust, as milk in contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. Then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. Wrath is transformed into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity, and it is lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. These modes exhibit themselves as a wrath and other corollaries. If therefore the mode of passion, instead of being degraded into the mode of ignorance, is elevated to the mode of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting, then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded Himself into many for His ever-increasing spiritual bliss, and the living entities are parts and parcels of this spiritual bliss. They also have partial independence, but by misuse of their independence, when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, they come under the sway of lust. This material creation is created by the Lord to give facility to the conditioned souls, to fulfill these lustful propensities, and when completely baffled by prolonged lustful activities, the living entities begin to inquire about their real position. This inquiry is the beginning of the Vedanta Sutras, wherein it is said, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. One should inquire into the Supreme, and the Supreme is defined in Srimad Bhagavatam as Janmadayasya Yatonyavad. Itarastacha. Or the origin of everything is the supreme Brahman. Therefore, the origin of lust is also in the Supreme. If therefore lust is transformed into love for the Supreme, or transformed into Krishna consciousness, or, in other words, desiring everything for Krishna, then both lust and wrath can be spiritualized. Hanuman, the great servitor of Lord Ram, exhibited his wrath by burning the golden city of Ravana, but by doing so, he became the greatest devotee of the Lord. Here also in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord induces Arjuna to engage his wrath upon his enemies for this satisfaction of the Lord. Therefore, lust and wrath, when they are employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of our enemies. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaisnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunantan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parichana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschat Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki. Much to the authorities here who have allowed me to give class. I seek the blessings of all the seniors, of the Vaishnavas, and of all the pujaris who are behind the curtains dressing the Lord, that may I be able to speak something of value and in line with the Shastras. Hare Krishna. So I'll read the translation again. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world." So a little background to the verse is that Arjuna, in the previous verse, has just asked Krishna that by what is one impelled to commit sinful activities? What is that when someone doesn't even want to do anything and they have good intentions, but still it feels like they have been overcome by something, like something has just taken over them completely, and then they end up doing the sinful activities. So in this verse, Krishna answers to Arjuna that it is lust only, that which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transformed into wrath. So who suffers from this lust? There's a story of Srila Prabhupada where he's on a morning walk, and one of his disciples comes to him and he goes to Prabhupada, "Prabhupada, I think that I'm free from lust now. I've practiced Krishna consciousness enough that I'm free from lust now." And Prabhupada said that you should go to a psychologist and get yourself checked. And Prabhupada was basically making a point that no one can just overcome lust just like that. We all have lust in us, certain degrees of lust. We all are covered. And yes, so lust is within us. So what is lust? We hear lust all the time, like, you have to overcome lust, Prabhu. you are doing all these things because you're under lust. Lust is, from lust comes, you start contemplation and then attachment, and then it leads to like a whole other process where you're just like deluded in the end and just confused. So have you ever been in a situation where you did something which you didn't want to do? You had good intentions, but you still hurt that person. There was something just driving you. That feeling, when we get, that is the lust. That is not the soul driving us, that's not the super soul driving us, but that's the lust driving us. When we go against our morals, our values, and still there's something which just completely takes over us and just makes us do something. When we come to Krishna consciousness, we make these resolutions and promises that, oh, I'm no longer going to do all these abominable acts I used to do before. I'm no longer going to do alcohol, drugs, and nothing. I'm going to be an exemplary person with good moral and values. But still, we end up doing something after these strong affirmations. I know one of my friends, he in his diary, he makes these affirmations every night before sleeping, that tomorrow I will try my best to overcome my addiction to do alcohol. And he writes every day, and then during the day he's okay, but like at night, like here and there, or the other day, like after a week or something, he just falls down. So like I remember one day he called me up, and because he was like completely wasted, and he asked me to pick him up so that he can be safe, and then so that I can take him safely to his apartment. And then while I'm taking him, he's just talking about how he doesn't want to do it, how he just regrets doing it. Even though he made the decision to do it in the first place, but after doing it, he's just regretting that he just doesn't want to do it anymore. Lust is something which we come in contact with as soon as we come into this world. So it's not something that which we acquire from someone, or which is just born out of nowhere. But this is something like which just comes as soon as we come into this material world. I was reading the story of how Jay and Vijay, they fell down into this material world. And while they were falling down, it's explained that they were being covered by certain degrees of false ego, mind, intelligence, and they were just being covered by the modes, and also lust. And actually, very interestingly, in one of the births of Jay and Vijay, they had 3 births after they came to the material world. One of their births was the embodiment of lust. Do you know who that was? Yes, it was Ravana. Ravana is considered as the embodiment of lust. Yeah, very right. So lust is basically a perverted reflection of love, which is our birthright, actually. Because I was talking to Ben Prabhu this morning about how should we sanctify the body by like applying tilak and like doing archman with mantras. And Prabhu was asking like, why do we need that? But we need to purify the body because the soul itself is Satchidananda, right? The soul is eternally, is eternal, is full of knowledge and bliss. But the body is Asat, is Achit and Nirananda. The body is temporary, full of ignorance and full of misery. So it's like a very awkward position for the soul to be in, where he's just like full of knowledge and bliss, but the body he's in is just full of ignorance. And that's why it's so difficult for the soul to function, because it has to deal with the subtle body and the gross body, and it has to meet the demands of both of them. Subtle body being the mind, body, intelligence, and then the gross body is just like how you need to eat, you need to sleep, and all these other things. So the soul has to deal with all these other things, and lust is also one of them. When the propensity to love, which is in us, is changed into lust in the material world, so it struggles, because we know we want to love, we want to be loved, but that's just changed into lust in this material world. Chaitanya Charitamrita explains lust as Atmanindriya priti vancha tare bali kama, Krishnanindriya priti icha dhare prema nama. The desire to gratify one's own senses is kama lust, but the desire to please the senses of the Lord Krishna is prema, love. We all know that Jiva Rasvarupa Hoy Nitya Krishna Das, right? So that Nitya Krishna Das. So Prabhupada in the purport explains that the Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself into many for his ever-increasing spiritual bliss. And the living entities are parts and parcels of the spiritual bliss. They also have partial independence, but by misuse of their independence, when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, they come under the sway of lust. So when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, that's lust. And we all have service propensity. That's what the phrase says, Ajive Rasarupa Nitya Krishna Das. So Nitya Krishna Das, we are eternally Krishna's servant. So if we are eternally Krishna's servant, we eternally have the qualities of a servant. So we eternally want to serve. But then what happens, like what do we end up serving? Instead of Krishna, we end up serving our own senses. You see the qualities there, but we just serve the wrong thing. And we just need to divert it towards Krishna. So what happens to us when lust hits us? Devotees usually go like either extremes, you know. They either go in like extreme guilt. Oh no, it has happened. I've had a slip up. I'm fallen down, this and that. I can't do the process. I can't. And there's like so much guilt that guilt just takes over it. And then the other extreme is where they just take it casually. Oh, it's fine. Krishna is all forgiving. He's the ocean of forgiveness. So it's fine. And then they just take it so casually that they they keep on doing it again and again, which is wrong. So which is both the extremes. But what we fail to do is take responsibility. That whatever is happening to us is because we made some decisions in the first place for us to be in that position. We need to accept that we are accountable. Now, people may be very truthfully explaining to you that, that it was beyond their control. It was like something took over them. You know, it was like burning or something, which is what lust is, which is a description of Maya. So it's something exceptional, extraordinary. This is what Maya looks like. This is what lust is like. But then we must have made some decisions to get to that in the first stage. You see, like negative forces are attracted wherever there is reception for those forces. We attract what we are, right? Yeah. So, but you see that some devotees, they are able to counteract this. So what is that causes one person to act normally, but the other person has like a slip up? Both of them, they have the same temptations. Krishna is testing them with the same temptation. But one of them gives in occasionally, and the other one is just on a regular basis. And the difference is that in their commitment to the spiritual life. Your commitment to your spiritual life will increase your resistance to the negative propensities of your mind. So the more we have commitment to a spiritual life, the more we have space for Krishna, the lesser space we have for all these other things. It's just a very like simple logic. But it's very hard to practice. As I said, like we attract what we are, right? We are attracting Maya when we are in these certain situations. We're not attracting Krishna. And then we say that, Maya made me do this. And then we, instead of taking responsibility, we blame it on Maya and all these external circumstances that, Maya made me do this and do that. But when we say that, we are also saying that, wait, is Maya stronger than Krishna then? Because Maya is making me do this. So then Krishna is not that powerful because Maya is making me do this. But how is that possible? That can't be possible. Because Krishna is stronger than Maya. Maya is serving Krishna. So when we give space to Krishna, when we open up to Krishna, He will protect us from all these impediments which come to us. So how should we overcome it? We should overcome it with the dust. In Hindi, we have this phrase called dhul chakhana, where it's an example of the wrestlers, like when the wrestlers fight, when the other one puts down the other one, it makes like him taste the dust because he's defeated it. So that's how we should defeat Maya. And also, like, similarly, dust also has like an emotional meaning to it. Like, we need the dust of the lotus feet of Krishna, the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord. And that dust actually has a potency to deliver us from all these things. When we have these desires and when we go to the Dham and we roll into the Dham, that dust, it purifies our desires internally and externally and helps us reach to a very high level of consciousness. But anyway, the dust I'm talking about here is an acronym. So, dust, D. So D stands for determination. The first instance you notice that lust has entered is good that you have acknowledged that in the first place, but you should be determined right from that moment to remove it. In Gita 2.41, it says that you need one-pointed determination to remove this lust. Because Krishna has presented this opportunity as a test, because he wants to test how advanced you are. So to tell Krishna, indicate to Krishna that you're ready for this test. You have to show him that, okay, you're determined. Okay, you're ready for this test. And let's go for it. And now we also may have failed in the past while controlling these desires. So many times we must have failed. But still, we should be determined. We should be like a lion. Devotees should have the spirit of a lion, always fighting back, always fighting back. We all have determination, but it's just directed in the wrong direction. Like someone's addiction to alcohol, you say, that they may say that they can't give it up, but at the same time, they do have the determination to do it. So it's the quality of determination is there, but it's just directed in the wrong side. And then we just use our determination to satisfy our own desires instead of Krishna's desires. And the next one is understanding. So the understanding of the Shastra. The knowledge in the Shastras will help us purify all our desires and give us like appropriate replacements for the things and activities we indulge in. Because we can't kill the desire, but we can direct the desire in Krishna consciousness. And because the Shastra have the knowledge of these desires, we can get to know about how we function, how these desires function, how lust functions. And when we have the knowledge to do this, we can finally overcome it. So this understanding, basically, it complements the determination we have. And when we have this understanding, the determination is guided to the right source. And it tells you that how you can just leave this world and get out of the clutches of Maya. Next is submission. Our desire to enjoy separately from the Lord. We have this desire to enjoy separately from the Lord. But if you see in the Mahamantra, we have the name Rama, which means the reservoir of all pleasure. If you're chanting that name, and when you say that the name is non-different from the Lord, so what's the need of you to go to something else or somewhere else when you are approaching the Lord, who is the reservoir of all pleasure? So we need to submit ourselves to the Lord. Just like lovers, they say that, oh, your wish is my command, or let's do what you want. But instead, saying that to a material person, we should say that to Krishna and submit to ourselves to Krishna. Because submitting ourselves to the worldly things can also be degrading, because nothing in this world is going to give you permanent happiness. But submission to the Lord will uplift you and your consciousness. And also in these situations, when we get attacked by lust and all these other things, we sometimes fail to reach out. Sometimes we think that we can just deal with it. But we need to submit to a spiritual master, a mentor, or a friend who can just help us just get through that situation. Just in the present moment, when lust hits you, immediately just give a call to a friend. Oh, I need help. Let's chant together. I need association. I don't want to be alone right now. And because the Lord is omnipotent, He can see that at least we have reached out, at least we are trying to get out of it. And because He's omnipotent, He will empower us to overcome that lust. And slowly, like this devotional submission will change into devotional absorption, which will naturally help us transcend these desires. So it won't be a mechanical process. In the beginning, it would be like, oh, I have to submit myself to the Lord, I have to do this. But eventually, when you keep doing this over time, it will just change into absorption, where you will just be devotionally absorbed, where you'll just naturally just transcend all these modes. And the last one is training. So just as a patient who is immobilized, he needs training to walk. So we all are spiritually immobilized by these unwanted desires and needs, which bring our consciousness down. So we need training to walk spiritually. Just like a child, right? A child learns how to walk. Now, the child needs someone to hold in the first place, so that it can start walking. So we also need someone to hold us. Not someone from the other ashram, but the spiritual master. To hold us, and he can show us how to walk spiritually. And Krishna consciousness offers this training to everyone, where we chant, where we study the scriptures and associate with spiritual people. And this training will eventually help us be situated in whatever condition we are in. And when we do this enough, we purposefully direct our consciousness in those situations towards the Lord, rather than entertaining what's coming our way. And eventually you will realize that you will have a distaste for all these things you used to do before Krishna consciousness. I remember I used to listen to all this Bollywood music and whatnot, getting into all these other things like dancing and like clubbing and whatnot. But now there's like, I just can't listen to anything like after Kirtan. Like, it's just Kirtan for me now. So when you treat this lust with dust, you get liberation from the desires, from the material desires, and also from this material world eventually. And that's the goal of Krishna consciousness. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Points you want to share? That's very true. Thank you for sharing, Prabhu. Okay. Granth Raj, Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.